Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
And a happy Thorsday to all of you who celebrate. Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's FantasyLife.com, one of the foremost draft experts and grinders in football media. And we're going to do something new here. We might be able to mix this in on a regular basis, but we've heard throughout the weeks and months, people will send in Feedback Friday questions. Every Friday, we turn the show over to just answering emails and YouTube comments. And a lot of people will submit questions, say, hey, can you throw this out there for Thor? Well, Thor doesn't join us on Feedback Friday, and we've yet to fully carve a space for people to have access to you. But we're going to start that today. Ask Thor Anything makes its debut today on this Thorsday episode of Purple Daily. How you doing, Thor?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Let's see the shirt first, though. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's see the shirt.
I'm dressing up. Sunday best.
Look at you.
Right here.
Screw the tuxedo, the tie. You got the McCarthy shirt.
I wear this to weddings.
You should.
Do you put a sport coat over it, or you just wear the T-shirt?
It depends on how late in the night it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Hey, we're tight, okay? Me and your son are tight now, so
I saw that.
I feel you. Here.
I saw that. First name basis.
The first name basis, yep.
That's
I
a
like
great
that.
question, Judd.
Two
Yes.
JJs,
Let me
too.
answer it with a smile.
2 JJs. JJ McCarthy, Judd James Olgad.
Wow.
Oh,
So a piece of pod, basically.
Just
wow,
a couple
basically.
Couple of
couple
J's
of
cutting it up.
football men. Yes.
Cutting it up, talking football, talking life at times. I mean, you never know.
Wow.
So let's we threw this out on I just threw it out on my Twitter account yesterday at Phil Mackey, and we solicited some questions for Thor. So if you've ever wondered something about, I don't know, like a young football player or Thor in general. So let's start with this one from Zeke12, who asks, what is JJ McCarthy's blood type?
Trick question. He doesn't bleed.
Amazing. I bet you could probably easily find the actual answer to that question within about 2 hours. So I wouldn't put it past Thor. This is kind of a fun get to know him. And then the third one we're going to get to is we floated this one by Thor. We just sent him some screenshots, and he went down like a 24-hour rabbit hole that he's gonna make a presentation to the audience here shortly. Yeah. But my KOC is going crazy. Is the commenter here.
Sure.
Skull Jettas.
Sure.
Says, how did Thor get into his line of work? Who or what drew his inspiration to do this for a living?
It picked me. I didn't pick it. I was obsessed with this since I was a kid. And watching the NFL drafts and printing off the big boards and crossing off as I went. In my closet at home, from the second we had the internet and a printer, I would print off the draft results like right when the draft got done, like all 7 rounds, because I didn't have a conception in my child mind that it would be saved on the internet going forward. So I had a stack of draft results in there. But yeah, I've been obsessed with it since I was a kid. I quit football my senior year because I was the editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, and I got a job with the Brainerd Daily Dispatch because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to, on my resume for undergrad, I wanted to go to a big school where the sports coverage would go outside the campus. And I knew that I needed a resume in order to make my case that I should be on one of the beats. So it's been going on for me since high school.
So what was your first draft? Like, what draft as a kid do you recall as being like the draft?
Well, the Randy Moss draft was the draft. I was already in on it before that, but that's when it became addiction level every year, and thinking through the permutations and iterations. And yeah, that whole thing was a play, the 20 picks or whatever in front of him when they just kept passing. Yeah. And what roads get to Moss? And then if they get there, will the Vikings actually pull the trigger? You already have Chris Carter. You already have Jake Reed. There's some other holes on the roster. Will you take the best player if he falls? I was hooked then.
So you were like 12? 13?
Would have been, 14. Yeah, 13, 14.
Wow.
Do you recall the Warren Sapp draft?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was another one to me that was huge, in part because the Vikings passed on Sapp. And I've always thought, can you imagine if they had taken Sapp and put him by Johnny
John
Randall
Randall. Yeah.
in 95-ish?
Mercy.
Like, you
Oh,
talk about what ifs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one on the other side, right? I mean, we've had Moss, we've had Jefferson, we've had just amazing draft moments. We've had some the other way as well, where it's like, why aren't you doing that? But yeah, it's what makes the draft great.
well, then looking back, I just pulled up the '98 draft, which was the Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, quarterback, Moss later on, Charles Woodson. There's a bunch of Hall of Famers in here. Alan Faneca was a first round pick. There's a handful of Hall of Famers. What was 14-year-old Thor's draft evaluation of Andre Wadsworth?
Well,
Or Curtis Enos to the Chicago Bears at number 5.
Well, yeah. At the time, I was saying, Bears, you're making a big mistake taking a running back that high. I did love Wadsworth because I loved that when I was a kid. I loved in the stadium when they go, oh, at FSU. I love that stuff. So I was a big Wadsworth guy. The Enos pick was a mistake in the moment. I will say I've gotten better at quarterback evaluations in the years since. I preferred Wazoo Ryan Leaf to Tennessee Peyton Manning coming out, but that was. It's a long time ago. The process has come a long way since then.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Actually, I want to throw one more at you here from the audience. Ask Thor Anything before we get to your potential presentation.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of along the lines of most people have this insane high expectation for the media that covers the draft of like, oh, look, you were wrong about this.
Yeah.
Dude, front offices are wildly wrong. You think Thor was wrong about Ryan Leaf? How about the freaking Chargers who like banked their entire existence on Ryan Leaf? So it's like baseball where if you bat like 350, you're a legend. And NFL draft, you're trying to evaluate things in a vacuum too. You're not inside, you're not like interviewing these players. So someone asks here, Norm chimes in, baseball Norm. I want to hear Thor's top 5 players he thought were going to be good, but were total busts that he missed in their evaluation, or maybe they were busts because the development didn't happen. But who are like those 5 players for you in your career? Like, can't believe that guy didn't work out.
Hakeem Butler's a big one for me. Hakeem Butler, that one still hurts. I thought Hakeem Butler was going to be good. But you live and you learn. Johnny Wilson, when he came out of Florida State, like I was just mentioning, Johnny Wilson, class or two ago from the Eagles, he had the exact same evaluation as Hakeem Butler. So Hakeem Butler's year, I loved him. But then it was when Johnny Wilson came out, it's like, I'm looking at Hakeem Butler again. So I rated him appropriately. Another one that I wildly missed on, it was in the same class as my greatest draft hit of all time. My greatest draft hit of all time was Lamar Jackson. I put him in the top 5. Nobody else did that year. Unfortunately, the number 1 guy on my board that year was Josh Rosen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my best draft calls of all time, one of my worst ones were in the same class.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned as well? So like from your mistakes, and quarterback probably should be taken out because it's such a different animal, but like from your mistakes on guys, what's the biggest thing that you've learned to either ignore or not value as much as you once did?
Well, it's all case specific, and it's why you want to get the most information on each guy. But let's go to Rosen. That what Josh Rosen taught me, it was a guy that wins in the pocket in college, wasn't a great athlete, right? Yep. So he had to be an elite pocket passer going to the next level. But there was whispers at the time that he wasn't committed to football, right? That he was going to be the last one in and the first one out, right? He from a young age, he had played tennis. He had all these other interests. He would talk about his other interests. Did not seem like he was a gym rat. And it's like when you're on the field and you only have one way to win, and that's the way where you need to beat the defense with your brain, but everyone that you're up against cares about the subject more than you. The path to success there was way narrower than in the moment I gauged it as, right? So like Hakeem Butler, that's an example where it was a huge guy. His ball skills were tremendous in college. So they would just toss him lollipops. Brock Purdy was one of them at Iowa State, just toss him lollipops downtown. But in the NFL, when you can only go north-south, right? Hakeem Butler, he changed directions like the Suez Canal tugboat, all he could do is go north-south, and then ball skills in the NFL, you're not going to be able to win with just ball skills downtown. So his routes became more straightforward. We know what you're going to do, Hakeem, and when you're downtown, we're going to be in better position with better athletes to defend that, and his game developed because of that. But every single one of them you learn lessons from all your mistakes, and more so than your hits.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get to some real deep dive Vikings football questions here in a moment. But let's do a deep dive into one of the best restaurants in the North Loop here, Butcher and the Boar, Judd.
You know what, folks? It's finally nice outside. Dare I say it's going to get hot? It's going to be summer finally. And guess what that means? It means only one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's patio season. And the Butcher and the Boar is the place to be because they have just opened their new patio, their big, huge patio in the North Loop. A great place to dine, a great place to drink, a great place to stop before, let's say, a Twins game. Absolutely, positively great food. We're talking about, be prepared, house smoked meats, hand-cut steaks, and fresh seafood, along with that fantastic cocktail list. That's the Butcher and the Boar, a #1 draft pick every single time in the North Loop.
Boy, I'm overheating. I need some air conditioning. Oh, standard heating and air conditioning.
Yeah.
Come on out.
When you get those meat sweats and you have to come back home and, oh my gosh, that was such a great experience on that patio. You want to make sure your HVAC's all in a good spot too. So standard heating can help you with all that stuff. You don't want to DIY stuff. You got to hire experts, okay? There's some things you can do by yourself. There's some things you need to let the experts handle. HVAC is one of those things. Go to standardheating.com. You can also join their Smart Club, which gets you discounts on repairs and priority bookings. Plus, mention Purple Daily when you contact them, and contact them however you'd like. Email, text, over the phone, doesn't matter. They make it easy for you. Go to standardheating.com to learn more.
So, okay, this one comes from Utah Jazz Optimist, who's also a Vikings fan. I'd like Thor's opinion on the Ty Felton pick. Who was at the top of his big board when the Vikings made that pick in the 3rd round? Who was the best wide receiver available if not Ty Felton? So you can definitely answer that question, but offline, Thor and I got to texting yesterday, and he said, what if we expanded on this exercise and we did like more of a choose your own adventure starting at the Donovan Jackson pick?
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you take it from here, Thor.
All right. So do we got it up on the...
Here you go.
Okay. So we're going to start on that first tab.
For the audio audience, Thor has created a visual and a spreadsheet here, by the way. We'll talk you through this, but Thor literally went home and went to school on the answer to this question for hours and hours.
So welcome into my TED Talk or my Thor Talk
as a college class, Thor.
On that top, I have my PowerPoint presentation going here. At the top there, that's the Vikings draft as it occurred. With the picks where they ended up being, right? Not heading in, but where they ended up being with 24, 102, 139, etc. The slots. I went into the alternate rabbit hole, like Phil was mentioning. The first sort of iteration here, the alternate one, I kept Donovan Jackson as the first pick, a pick I did not disagree with. If in that exercise, though, I switched the second pick, the 102 slot, to Billy Bowman Jr., who our viewers over the spring will know that I was a big fan of. And then I switched out the other picks as well. So basically an alternate draft class that would have been achievable if the Vikings had stayed in the slots that they ended up doing. And for the audio audience, those 5 picks, we start with Donovan Jackson, like I said. Billy Bowman Jr., the safety from Oklahoma that ended up going to the Falcons, I put him 102. Torrey Horton, the wide receiver from Colorado State, who ended up going to Seattle, I put him in the 139 slot. That would be the makeup pick for Felton, getting the wide receiver. And then the last 2 picks, the 201, 202, Cody Lindenberg, keeping him home from Minnesota, and then Brashard Smith from SMU, the receiving running back. I thought would have been a good pick. The Vikings didn't end up taking a running back. Right now there's speculation, and maybe Judd can speak to a little bit of this, that maybe the Vikings will only keep 2 running backs, or maybe the identity of the 3rd running back, we don't know it yet. It's someone who's going to be brought in from the outside. I think you would have secured that guy had you used one of those 6th-round picks on a running back.
So they kept in the final 53 cut down last year going into the season, they kept 2 running backs and C.J. Ham. So at the time, they kept Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, C.J. Ham. Now, eventually, they did expand that because inevitably one of the running backs gets hurt. But, I mean, I think, Thor, to your point here, to your draft alternate number 1, There is a case to be made that if there was one position I think it was surprising the Vikings passed on, it was the running back position. Just because, as you talked about all spring long again, the depth of that position was so great and you could actually get a steal late. So I think if there's one place where people were surprised they didn't address with their few draft picks, it was probably the running back spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we'll end up seeing if some of the excess of all the running backs that came into the league, if that is going to lead to a couple August cuts that essentially shouldn't happen. Rosterable running backs cut from other teams that then the Vikings can swoop in and grab for free, right? Some of these 6th and 7th round draft picks that were taken this past April that would have been 5th round picks, maybe even late 4th round the year before in the crappy running back class. Some of those guys are going to be on the cut line. Right, the teams are only going to keep 3 running backs, and some of them have 4 rosterable running backs right now. So referendum on that we're still waiting for. If I'm the Vikings, I still would have taken the running back late on day 3. The alternate 2 that I used for this, the first one wanted to keep the same first pick. The second one, let's upend the whole thing. If we had
Dex, can you scroll down?
Gone a different direction. That is my alternate 2. The guy I would have taken if you stay in the first slot, you don't trade down, that if it wasn't Donovan Jackson, again, I did not disagree with the Donovan Jackson pick, but Malachi Starks would have been the other guy I would have strongly considered there, the safety from Georgia that the Baltimore Ravens ended up taking 3 slots after you. That's who I would have gone with in round 1. Again, had I not gone Donovan Jackson. In that exercise, I then go CJ West, interior defensive lineman from Indiana, who's a tremendous run stopper. He went to San Francisco, 113 slot. You could have used the 102 on him. And then you come back on offensive line, 139 slot with Marcus Mbo, who went to the Giants. He came from Purdue. I was way higher on him than the NFL was. That's a tackle convert that's moving inside to guard. I like his odds of moving inside. And I think that's a guy that potentially could play early. And then the last 2, Cameron Williams, offensive tackle from Texas, who fell down, kind of a project, but he has a high ceiling. And then the last one, Damian Martinez, running back from Miami, who ended up going to Seattle. You could have gotten him in the 202 slot. Another example of a good running back who would have been taken multiple rounds earlier than he actually got taken the spring before that, who is available late there. And then to the question that we jumped off from, if you had stayed in the Ty Felton slot, but not taking Ty Felton, but you took another receiver, who would that have been? It probably would have been Dante Thornton, the Tennessee wide receiver, who ended up going 2 slots later to the Raiders. Now, recall where the Vikings originally were with their comp pick in the 3rd round. It was higher as far as where those comp picks were at the end of the round. The Vikings traded down, right, to a later 3rd round comp pick. They traded down like 5 slots so they could move up in a later round. I think, was it with the Texans, I think? I'm pretty sure they're in the 3rd. And anyway, with the traded down pick, that's where they took Ty Felton, the 102 slot. That was at the very end of the 3rd round. Then Dante Thornton, when Saturday opens up, you turn around 4th round, right at the start of the 4th round. The Raiders popped Dante Thornton. Dante Thornton would have been a pretty fascinating proposition here, I think, because he is a size speed freak, and he's already been flashing in camp down there. 6'5", 205 pounds, 98th percentile size adjusted athlete. And that guy wasn't in great passing situations in his career, but his per snap numbers were really, really good. If nothing else, he's going to be a really good one-trick pony downtown, right? Like a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, maybe a better version of that at the very minimum. But I think there's a little bit of upside potentially left on tap in addition to that.
You and I'm curious. We'll get to that sliding door tab down
this
there,
is where it gets
which
fun.
is going to get. I think that's where things are going to get crazy here. Yeah. But you, I get that like the comp aspect of what you do is it's very much like it's hard to pin down and it's based on athletic profiles and different things. But when I see James Laurinaitis as a comp for Cody Lindenberg, that piques my interest. So what you've been very high on Cody Lindenberg. The Vikings had many chances. They clearly were in the market to draft a running back, and they did, Kobe King. So do you think they'll regret not drafting the local kid, Cody Lindenberg?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think Cody Lindenberg will have a better career than Kobe King. Cody Lindenberg would have been taken multiple rounds higher if he hadn't been nicked up in the latter half of his college career. So that was the one concern was durability. And then even when he tested, and he tested pretty decent, you're talking 6 foot 2.5, 236, 81st, 82nd percentile size adjusted athlete. But he was rushing back from an injury, like in the pre-draft process. So there's even a shot that he's a little bit better of an athlete than that. But when he, it's another thing. You look at the per snap when he was on the field at Minnesota, he always shined with that big, rangy kid, good athlete. I like him against the run. I like him in coverage, at least in zone. He does a really good job of following the quarterback's eyes, scheme responsibility, etc. I think that guy's going to be a good linebacker in the NFL, and he found the right situation. I'm sure he would have loved to be.
Did we lose
at the time of the draft? That's if you could have chosen him on the map, that it would have been them.
Okay. So what was in your mind, the drawback from the Vikings' perspective on him?
I think a big one was the durability thing. That's what I think it was, sure. being nicked up there at the end. And you never know when the teams get into the medicals. We don't hear about that on my side, right? Like each team's individual medical staff. Right. And Cody didn't have anything crazy serious, but those last couple of years, he had a series of nagging injuries. So that's one where it's going to get in, and each doctor for each team is going to have a separate opinion of this will be lingering going forward. This is not, these were circumstantial. They're not going to be lingering. So sometimes discrepancies in opinions can literally just come from that, the way that the doctors are seeing, an x-ray or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I'd be really curious to sort of follow your opinion and take on this with what the Vikings did. Let's continue this. Choose your own adventure. What would Thor do, or what are the alternate paths the Vikings could have chosen? Let's open that sliding door tab and look at these. Look at the Thor Nystrom graphic department. By the way, just absolute.
Your interns are good.
Here.
So let me set this up for you guys. What we just did was, if you're staying in the same slots, the slots that you were given, what would my decision have been in those slots, right? Yeah. Now let's have some fun, because that's only talking about the reality as it happened. There were other possibilities, right?
So this is like retrospective, reckless speculation.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, we are getting in the DeLorean, and we are traveling back in time to the last Thursday night of April. And welcome into the theater of the mind, Vikings draft style here. The Vikings ended up turning down trade offers to take Donovan. Nice. To take Donovan Jackson. What if they had taken one of those trades? And then how would one decision? It's the butterfly effect in the draft. Mm-hmm. One decision changes every decision after that. If the Vikings had done something crazy, let their hair down at the beginning of the draft, how could the draft class have looked? And what would that draft class against what they actually had? What would you have preferred? So let's do it with the big one. The trade that was accepted 2 slots after the Vikings selected at 24, when the Rams traded the 26th slot and the 101st slot to terrible Terry Fontenot, our boy, with the Atlanta Falcons for number 46, number 242, a late 7th rounder. And most importantly, the Atlanta Falcons is 2026 round 1 pick.
Which could be a nice
pick.
Really
nice pick, yeah.
Which could be a nice pick. Very nice pick. So now we're in our alternative history. The Vikings go into that draft with 24 and 97, right? They ended up trading down from 97, but they come in with 97. So our trade with the Falcons here, we have now picked up the phone call that when terrible Terry's gone. We're trading 24 and 97. Now, you look at the package that the Rams ended up giving back. I ran the math on it of what if the Falcons had gone to 24, right? Instead of 26, the 24th pick is worth more than that. And the Vikings pick there at 97, it was also above the 101 pick that the Rams kicked back in that. If you look at the difference in value of those 2 picks, where the Vikings were and then the Rams were, the ones that the Falcons ultimately acquired, the equivalent, the value difference between what the Rams gave up and what the Vikings hypothetically would have been was worth the 129th overall pick in the draft. That's a mid-4th round pick. So to make this more fair, so the Falcons offer, but to the Vikings for the more valuable picks, the Falcons had the 117th pick. And so instead of taking 242 from the Falcons, I'm going to take 117. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep. Totally. Okay. Yep.
So that's what we're doing. We are trading 24 and 97, and we are getting back 46, 117, and the Falcons 2026 round one.
Yep.
That's the first of 4 trades we're going to make during this draft.
I love that. And this is great. So you're going to make trades and then you're going to do the picks,
And
right?
then we're going to do the picks. Now that one was quote unquote hypothetical, but it happened in real life. And ostensibly it was available to the Vikings. The second trade that I'm going to do is another one that happened in real life that hypothetically would have been on the board for the Vikings. And this was another high profile one, maybe not quite as high profile, but it was the Shadir Sanders trade.
Yeah.
You go back into day 3 in the 5th round when the Browns traded the Seahawks 166 and 192 for 144. Now that one is interesting because the Vikings had the 139 slot, so 5 slots ahead of the slot that was traded for Shadir Sanders.
Comparable, right? Yeah.
So we're just going to take that trade. We're going to trade 139 for 166 and 192. The Browns have now made the Shadir Sanders trade with the Vikings. So we're going to take those 2 picks from them. Now, so those ones we're changing history. The other 2 trades we're making, we're not changing history.
They were on the table. Yeah.
We are taking 2 trades that the Vikings ended up taking. We're taking the Sam Howell one. So
Yep.
So we traded 142 to Seattle for 172 and Sam Howell. We're keeping that trade. That's trade number 3. And then we are keeping trade number 4 as well, where the Vikings traded 172 to the Rams for 201 and 202. So that 2-step,
that happened.
We're keeping that intact. Now, your whole board now is different, right? You have traded out of the first round. You have dropped down to 46 from the Falcons. You also picked up 117 from them, but the whole board is different. So now we're going to go down and we're going to explore 2 different roads that you could have taken if your draft started.
I think we're battling Thor.
That is reuniting J.J. McCarthy with his collegiate teammate.
We're good. I think we got you. We were battling your internet there for a minute, but I think we're good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay.
You're good. We blipped out for like 5 seconds. You're good.
So the first alternate road is the Will Johnson one. The second one has a bit more of a local flavor, but we'll get to that one in a second. Yeah. The Will Johnson path, you get down to 46. Again, that's the pick that the Rams acquired. So if the Vikings take that trade, hypothetically, this is where your draft starts off. Will Johnson, who is an incredible lockdown cornerback on the 2023 Michigan Wolverine National Championship team on the other side of the football from J.J. McCarthy, ends up falling all the way down to the 47th pick when he was projected to go in the top half of the first.
So now, he was your CB2, your second ranked cornerback.
He was my CB2, and I had him 14th overall. Now, what I said before, I do not have access to the medicals, right? I don't know what those guys saw when they went in on medical combine rechecks in Indianapolis to look into Will Johnson, his various lower body injuries. And he's had several over the last couple of years. Since that 2023 season, it's been one lower body injury after another. And so, again, I didn't stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. I can't tell you if there's a compounding thing. Is there something systemic with Will Johnson's lower body that is causing one aggravating injury after another that is going to be a problem going forward? Or was it circumstantial? I don't know. But if my medical team gave the thumbs up and we had made this trade, Will Johnson ends up going 1 slot beneath that 46 pick that you acquired back from Atlanta. He ends up going to Arizona, but we would be taking Will Johnson in the first pick of our alternate road scenario here.
Yeah. Okay. So and it'd be a risk. There'd be you'd have to clear it with the old medical staff, like you said.
Exactly. But if they sign off on it, we're good. We reunite Will Johnson with J.J. McCarthy. Now, the rest of the draft, we got the 117 pick back from Atlanta in that trade as well. Joshua Farmer, another Florida State Seminole, a guy that I think fell way, way too low. And that one, there's some rawness in his game. There's some things that he has to work on from a technique perspective, but from a physical ability perspective, that guy should have gone way, way higher. Maybe take him second. I came back with the offensive lineman, the interior offensive lineman with Drew Kendall, the son, blast from the past, Pete Kendall. You guys remember Pete Kendall, the interior offensive line for the Seahawks way back in the day?
Wow. Okay. So he's got bloodlines. He's got football bloodlines.
He loves football.
Yeah.
He's got football in his DNA, you could say.
He's all in.
Pete Kendall was, he made several Pro Bowls with the Seahawks as his center. And I thought his son, Drew, was super duper underrated. Boston College center. Philadelphia ends up getting him 168, just a couple slots later than this 166 pick that we had acquired. And then the other ones, the other slots, I think were staying put, 192, 201, 202. And who I gave the Vikings in that this exercise, I stopped the fall of Cameron Williams, this tackle from Texas that I referred to earlier. It's a guy with a lot of physical ability that was only a starter for 1 year. And he got licked in a couple matchups, but he also had some awesome performances against guys that ended up going in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. So it's an upside play, but at the point where Cameron Williams ended up getting taken, I love the risk that Howie Roseman in Philadelphia took on him, because it's not a risk at all. You can cut a late six round pick, it don't matter. And then for the 201, 202, Damian Martinez, that hammerback from Miami that I liked, I thought he would have been fun to add to the running back room. And then with the last pick, because we hadn't taken a wide receiver yet, I know they wanted to add the receiver, Jordan Addison, potential suspension impending, potential 3-game suspension impending. We come back for the wide receiver with the last pick in Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson, who is getting some Tank Dell comps during the pre-draft process. Those were probably a bit apocryphal, but Tez Johnson's a good slot receiver, was very, very productive in college. The Vikings potentially 3 wide receiver sets. You want to bring in your slot receiver, Tez Johnson. That would have been a way to do that on the cheap. So that was and then of course, again, you have Atlanta's 2026 round 1 in addition to this, and we still get Sam Howell because we still made that trade.
Wow, dude. Wow.
So do we think that the Vikings were offered that trade?
There has been no confirmation of this.
I know.
I'm gonna have to call my friend Terrible Terry Fontenot right after this.
I would love to know. I guess I struggle a little bit with believing that the Vikings wouldn't have taken the Falcons' first round pick.
But why would they not have offered it to the Vikings?
I know. I'm just saying. I've seen no confirmation that that offer was for sure on the table to the Vikings, and I would just love to know if they flat out said no, or if the Falcons panicked after. I'd just like to know how that played out, because I agree. If you're offering me your first round pick and you're the Falcons in 2026, I think I'm taking it.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously really, really like Donovan Jackson. He's an immediate and long-term solution potentially at left guard. But if you can move, and you'd have to move back about 20 spots, but you'd be picking up a potential top 10 pick for 2020. Does anyone think right now that the Falcons are a playoff team? With the that division's kind of up for grabs, but the Buccaneers are tough as nails with that offense. Yeah. Carolina's going to get better. You've got, in terms of other wild card teams, they're not going to be a playoff team. So
playoffs,
top 15, top 16 pick.
I'm going to be going to Atlanta in early October to help Terrible Terry Fontenot clean out his office before security comes for him.
You and Kirk both.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kirk will help Terrible Terry too.
Yeah,
oh man.
Kirk will be out in the hallway. He'll be loving it.
And then just to finish this exercise, what else? Do you have something below this here?
Yes.
Just for fun? Okay. Give us one more alternate path here.
Scenario.
This is unbelievable, by the way, Thor.
It's great, dude. This is what if you're ever wondering, what does Thor do in June of the NFL season? This right
You're
here.
You're still not sleeping though. I'm now concerned more than ever about your sleep patterns.
Now that the scenario we just did, right, with all these picks we've acquired in this sliding doors reality, we start with Will Johnson. We did that thing. There was another door to walk through though in the same scenario, and this was the Minnesota Golden Gopher door. If the Vikings had done the thing with Terrible Terry Fontenot, there was a very real possibility where they could have ended up with multiple Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Right.
You walk through the other door. So let's start with this one.
I will not rest until the Vikings win a Super Bowl with 22 Golden Gophers starting on offense and defense.
Bring back Mitch Leidner too. Bring back all the old guys, Chris Darkins, everybody.
Chris Darkins.
That's a great blast from the past. Where's Mike Holmesy when you need
the
him?
dark shield face mask?
God, it was tremendous. But Arion Tiersuri, the starting tackle from the Gophers, who I presume will be kicking inside at the next level, was taken by the Texans in the 48th slot. In this one, you've acquired the 46 from the Falcons. You could just take Ursary. Now, this one is interesting because you guys remember during the draft, Vikings take Donovan Jackson at 24. Remember how quick Houston traded out of the 25th slot after that trade was announced? Houston traded back with the New York Giants, who were coming up to get Jackson Dart. But our assumption is that Houston would have stood pat and taken Donovan Jackson had the Vikings not taken him. So this is the sliding door reality, right? If the Vikings trade out with Atlanta and Atlanta goes up, takes Pierce the pick above that, Houston presumably stays in their own slot, takes Donovan Jackson. Then the Rams might be stuck in theirs, right? Or maybe they end up right, like you maybe they trade with the Giants, right? Maybe the Rams end up taking the Giants one. The Giants come up for Dart, get them at 26. But anyway, because of this, Houston doesn't get Donovan Jackson in round 1. So in round 2, they have to come back for Arianti Ursary, who again, we're assuming they're going to kick inside to guard. But now the Vikings are going to take him because in this exercise, we've done the trade down. So we get Ursary at 46. Wow. We're coming back 117 with Joshua Farmer, the interior defensive lineman I was talking about before. That's our replacement for Tyrion Dawkins Ingram here. And then the 166 pick, Torrey Horton, the wide receiver that I like from Colorado State. I like Torrey Horton more than Ty Felton, and I hope Ty Felton ends up proving me wrong on that. Ty Felton certainly was taken higher.
Torrey Horton, also a classic wide receiver name, I feel like.
It's a great one.
Yeah, like if a guy named Torrey Horton introduces himself, you're like, are you an
Torrey
NFL
Holt?
wide
Very
receiver?
close.
Torrey Holt.
Yeah,
well,
NFL
yeah,
wide receiver,
and
right?
you know, and being up here close to Canada, you know, we grabbed some more Canadian fans because it would be Tim Horton. Yeah. Isn't it Tim Hortons? Yeah.
Tim Hortons, yes. Yeah. Coffee shop.
Tim Hortons. Now, with the 192 pick, I took Thomas Fedone, the tight end from Nebraska, who ended up going to the New York Giants. I liked him a little bit more than Gavin Bartholomew, so I'm making that swap. And then the last two, Cody Lindenberg. We're keeping Cody home. Cody now going with Ursary, and as it came to find out, he was acquired roughly an hour later. Max Brosmer coming too, right, via UDFA, right after the draft.
Wow,
and then Brashard Smith. At the end, we get our receiving backs.
Yeah, the running back. Yeah.
So in this one, we had 6 picks. The Vikings, was it 5 that they ended up having, in the draft. This exercise, we manufactured 6. Again, still come out with Sam Howell, get Atlanta's first round pick next year. And in that one, we had 2 Gophers. We just would have to cross our fingers that Ursary could be the starting left guard in year 1.
Let's give it up for Thor right there. The imagination.
The work.
Thor Nystrom.
Forget the imagination, the work.
I was hoping that the sliding door tab was actually just a running list of like sliding door quotes that Thor had for his house. Like, I like he got one from Home Depot here and one from this one. I thought he had a bunch of sliding door tabs of.
He's like, I took it was an old spreadsheet. I was kind of,
Yeah, that one's definitely in my Google Docs somewhere, buried a little bit, but I definitely have one of those.
So, baseball norm, does that answer your question? Hopefully it does. What would Thor do instead of Ty Felton in the 3rd round?
A lot.
A couple more Ask Thor Anything questions here, but North American Banking Company, who's helping to power Purple Daily, it's a Minnesota-based bank. That's right, a Minnesota-based bank. It's run by Cody Lindenberg. He owns the bank. No, he doesn't. Be awesome if he did. But I don't know, maybe he banks there. But if you're looking for a better banking experience, from the checking and the savings, the blocking and the tackling, all the way up to something bigger, you're looking to finance a home or a new company or a big project, North American Banking Company, since 1998, based in Minnesota, 6 metro locations. They can help you out. Find out more information, nabankco.com/Mackey. To learn more, nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And Dennis Kirk is here as well for riding season. Man, it is finally, summer has decided to show its face in the middle of June. Now, technically, it's not summer till like tomorrow, but we're here. It's riding season. Motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, whatever it is that you ride, DennisKirk.com has you covered with over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories. Same-day shipping on orders placed before 6 p.m. Central Time, and free shipping on orders over $89. DennisKirk.com. Okay. Let's go to Ask Thor Anything here. So you're going to be, I don't know if this is like officially, I mean, you're definitely like more of a draft guy than a fantasy guy, despite the fact that you are Matthew Berry's fantasylife.com, but you are also a fantasy expert throughout your career and have been dishing out. So we're already getting an early start here from Jack's Hit. Do you have any late round fantasy sleepers for the season that you're ready to unveil?
JJ McCarthy. JJ, seriously, he's getting taken way too low. Maybe not for this crowd.
You could take him as the last starting quarterback off the board, right? I mean, he's I would assume.
Yeah. Well, maybe not the last one, but
like among if it's a 12-team league. Could you just let 11 teams draft a quarterback, load up your roster, and take McCarthy as the 12th quarterback off the board?
Well, I think, yeah, in standard leagues, I think that he's going to start getting closer to that where he's perceived as the low end QB1. But back in January, just being in this space, I was seeing the early rankings coming out, and people were ranking JJ like in the 20s, like the mid 20s, late 20s. I may or may not have texted a coworker and said, "You're too low. You need to raise that." Yeah. Yeah, it just is what it is. And anyway, now he's in the consensus. I think someone told me this a week or two ago. I think he's like 15th or 16th drafted quarterback now. He should be top 12. I think he should probably be in the latter half of that top 10.
He may sneak some rushing touchdowns, and sometimes
he will.
Younger quarterbacks will bail on their reads and just use their legs sometimes and pick up rushing touchdowns that way too. So could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean the statistical profile Sam Darnold put together through the air last year. Why is that not achievable for McCarthy? I don't really understand that. And McCarthy's going to give you some rushing production that Sam did not. To your point. Yeah, I think the offense is going to be real good. You swap out one of the NFL's worst interior offensive lines for one of the best now, and then you add Jordan Mason. You have addressed both of the systemic issues on last year's offense, and then you get a quarterback now that can create off script, which you didn't have last year either.
Jordan Mason to me is an interesting play as well.
I agree with that.
I think he is. I mean, Aaron Jones, I like him a lot. Can catch passes. I think he's at a point where he's going to break down more and more. And I think that the fact that he's going to split carries is going to help him. But Jordan Mason, as far as touchdowns go, and he is not going to be a exclusively situational guy. He's going to get carries. He's going to get series. I think Jordan Mason becomes a very intriguing play.
I'll go further than that. In non-PPR leagues, Jordan Mason finishes higher than Aaron Jones this fall.
Yeah, non-PPR. Yeah.
Non-PPR. In PPR, that's where it gets more interesting because I expect it's going to be a wild distribution of Jones he's going to get all the passing work, of course, right? And of course, he's going to get some of the rushing work. But I think Jordan Mason is going to chomp into some of those touches, certainly the meat and potato stuff, certainly the short yardage stuff, and certainly for fantasy topical importance here, the goal line work. So that's where I think Mason ends up getting ahead of him with that.
Judd's Camp Notes would just like to tell you, Thor, that let's just say on the ground last week that we observed and noted Jordan Mason possibly being more involved in the passing game than you think.
Oh, Judd's Camp Notes.
We saw some formations. We saw some things. I can't talk about them. I'll get in big trouble if I do. But what I can tell you is don't dismiss him as a PPR play completely.
Judd, when do we get the Judd's Camp Notes unedited, uncut director's version? Where you tell us the
Snyder
stuff
cut?
that you're not supposed to tell. Yeah, the Snyder cut.
Snyder cut of Judd. Yeah.
I think I give almost everything. I'm just going to say right now that I saw him at one point split out in a formation. Like, I think they think Jordan Mason's hands are better than what we think.
Okay.
Well, but it's not just us. It is 7 years of NFL and college, and he has caught 39 total passes to this point in his football life, going back to.
Yep.
So, but I'm not doubting Judd's Camp Notes. I'm just saying this would be a wild deviation from how every coach has used him.
And I'm not saying that he's the main guy, but I do think that there's more trust in his ability to catch here than there probably has been in the past. I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I'm lobbing the grenade.
Who are we
I'm
to
going
doubt
John
Judd's
Moran.
Camp Notes?
I'm lobbing the grenade. I'm covering my ears. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I like that. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, hey, there's some more good stuff here, but I think we've proven we're going to bring back Ask Thor Anything and just see what can we break the record for most in-depth answer to one Ask Thor Anything question going forward the rest of the offseason.
Unbreakable.
And just make Thor do spreadsheet presentations for all of his answers.
Dude, that was awesome.
So, yeah, great stuff, dude. Appreciate you on this Thorsday. At ThorKU on Twitter or X. And you can find him MatthewBerry'sFantasyLife.com, and obviously every Thursday here on Purple Daily. All right, go enjoy the rest of your day here, Thor.
Will do.
Grinding spreadsheets and film. And Thor told us off mic he's going to be ready pretty soon with a 2026 mock draft. It's never too early for the mocking around here, but we'll catch up with you again. Love it, dude. We'll catch up with you next week. Tomorrow is a Feedback Friday here, Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.